sometimes as women, we feel like it's like that badge of honor to like do it all and just say yes and not say no to things. Because what would that look like if we didn't say yes to everything? One of the first steps was to acknowledge that self care and being able to truly take care of yourself is not selfish, right? It's actually necessary to be the person that you want to be and to be that person to the people that you're giving to. Because when you're not giving yourself your all, how can you give that to others? So the biggest shift, I think, was being able to really delegate and empower my team. For so many as a practice owner, we think that we need to do it all and that we need to like micromanage everything. You're empowering your team to be their best selves, and you're being a role model as well by showing that you believe in them and letting that part go to be like, I entrust you guys that you guys are going to do this. So I think setting those boundaries and really learning that no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
Before, if I said no, I would have to have a long-winded story behind the no.
Yeah. So it's
And
no.
it's freeing.
Hey, Story Project family. I'm excited to introduce to you Dr. Valerie Woo. She is an entrepreneur, pediatric dentist, and mother of four who founded NOVA Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics in 2006, establishing it as a premier practice known for its exceptional patient experience. After selling her successful practice in 2021, she launched Valerie Woo Consulting to mentor and guide dentists in transforming chaotic practices into thriving businesses. Drawing from her own journey of starting, scaling, and selling a practice, she integrates leadership, marketing, and operational systems into customized programs. Passionate about empowering others, Dr. Woo helps dentists achieve their boldest visions while maintaining balance in their personal and professional lives. I'm so excited for you guys to check out this conversation with Dr. Valerie Woo. Welcome to the Story Project podcast. I am your host, Joanna Scott. And Valerie, I'm so excited to have you with me today. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Recently, you wrote an article in I think it was the autumn edition of the Do Life magazine, and it just struck me on so many levels. And I reached out and I was like, hey, one, we need to be friends. And two, I want to get to know you better and hear your story, your journey. And so I'm super excited about this conversation today, just to dive in and hear all the things and let our audience get to know you.
Let's go.
Right, this is going to be fun because Dr. Wu and I were already laughing before I hit record and already having a really good time. So I'm just excited. All right, before we dive in, there's this really fun, you have four kids, I have two, but I don't know if you've heard of these table talk cards. They are
Okay.
conversation starters, just like little icebreaker things. Like if you're ever at dinner with your family or whatever, and your teenagers or college students are rolling their eyes and want to get out of it, you can
Yes.
just pull these out,
I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
All moms everywhere of those age of kids are saying, yes. Okay. What's your favorite phone app?
Oh, well, right now it's Instagram.
Good. What's your favorite animated movie?
Up.
Oh, that's so good. That movie makes me cry, literally.
Exactly. All you have to do is you just hear the first beats of that song and it's over.
Yes, completely. Okay, when it's late morning and you're getting hungry, which lunch gets you really excited?
Which lunch?
Yes, what would you love to eat?
Oh, let me see. There are these amazing shrimp tacos at Ford's Fish Shack that's by the office that I love to get.
That's awesome. Okay.
And of course, a good French fries, always a favorite.
Yes, yes. I've told my husband for years, and people that know me think I would love to, even though the restaurant business is really hard, it would be so cool to open up like a wine and fries shop. Just have
Hmm.
like really high-end wines, but then all these different types of fries and like have pairings. But
Oh, well, I like that because my husband is a sommelier as well as a cook. So that is a great idea.
My husband is a som too. Oh my gosh. Stop
For
it.
real?
Yes, just for fun. It's his hobby.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a Psalm 3. And then finally he was like, okay, I'm done. And he stopped at 3. Because if you go to 4, you practically have to
Yes.
quit your life. You know?
Right. Oh my gosh, that is
Yes.
crazy.
Oh, we need to introduce them. That's
We
incredible.
do.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your best hidden talent?
If I could do another job, I would love to be a stylist.
Oh, for um like attire, like wardrobe or hair or makeup or
For wardrobe and home. I love home design too.
okay. Ooh, that's awesome. I can tell based on your office.
Oh,
Your background there. Yeah, it's beautiful.
thank you.
Okay, here we go. I'd love to just dive in and begin hearing your journey of how you built a thriving practice, NOVA Pediatric Dentistry and Ortho, which is a startup practice in Ashburn. Am I saying Ashburn? Excuse me,
Yep.
Ashburn, Virginia, right outside of DC. And
Yes.
you also offer full service orthodontics, which I found to be really incredible. What was it like to be a new mom while also creating your other baby, your startup practice?
It was pretty much a whirlwind, right? Of exhilarating, exciting, and exhausting, right? I think we talked about this earlier that, you know, starting a practice right out of residency, I was pregnant with my daughter when I graduated from Children's Hospital in Boston. Graduated in June, had her in August. My husband and I had bought our space while I was a resident, so we were paying three mortgages at that time on a resident salary. And I had her in August. We moved down back to Virginia from Boston, and she basically had a little hard hat on going to the practice as we were building it. And I saw my first patient in January of 2006. Um, this is a great story. My very first patient that walked in the door, her name is Chloe. She has an older brother and sister. She was 5 at the time. So she was the very first family to walk in that door. She told me, she goes, Dr. Wu, I want to be a dentist when I grow up. And I said, well, that's fantastic. And throughout the years, her mom would email me or call me during the holidays, when she was 5, 7, 9, and always be like, can you look on Amazon and try to find me a um a dental related gift that's age appropriate. So like every year we'd find something. And then as she got older, even when she was in middle school, she would be like, Dr. Wu, can I shadow you? Can I help? Can I do it? So every year, starting from middle school all the way through college, she she was an intern. She became the president of her pre-dental club at JMU. She graduated from JMU. She took a gap year with me last year while she was applying to dental school, and now she's at Virginia VCU.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we're going to dive into a conversation around mentorship, but that is really incredible. I've not heard that story. Just the fact that you have been mentoring her along the way since she was 5. That's
Since
incredible.
she was 5. And there are others too. I currently have another one who is applying to dental school this year, also taking a gap year. I mean, it has been just such a privilege to watch these children grow into these amazing human beings and to be just a small part of their life and to see what kind of impact that you can truly have on them.
That's incredible. So, I mean, you're not only a proud mama of your 4, but a proud dental mama. I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when they come back to like show like what they've done, or like, obviously when I have families who come from big families, and so I hear about the older siblings that are in college or that have already graduated, and where they're it's always such um a bittersweet moment when a family ends up graduating and the parents, we look at each other because it's like we've been friends all this time because we share so many stories with our own children to have to finally say goodbye to one another. It's that's the hardest part of being a pediatric dentist is watching them, fly off.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can imagine. So fast forward to 2021, you made the challenging decision to sell your ownership stake in your practice. What led you to make that choice?
A few things. I didn't think, of course, when I first started the practice 20 years ago, that after pouring all of my heart into building this practice that I was going to sell. I thought it was going to be in the family, to be honest. But over time, I began to feel like this tug at me and a sense that I was meant to do something bigger. And obviously, for me, it's to help other women and men, dentists, be able to navigate the same challenges that I faced by being a consultant, a coach, a mentor, whatever it is that they need me to be for them. And what really happened was, COVID happened. And that pandemic was a huge wake up call for many of us. And it forced me to really slow down and evaluate what truly mattered. And, as a business owner, COVID really accelerated my decision to sell because it made me realize that while I loved my practice, I had already built something that could stand alone without me. And it was a time for me to trust the systems that I put in place, to trust the leadership that I had put in place, and the foundation that I felt that instead of being in my comfort zone now, because I've done this, was I really holding myself back from my true dream, or that next calling, which is what I'm doing now. And so, what I love that I'm able to do and I have the privilege to do is that I am still working for the practice and I am still a leader. And at the same time, I'm able to mentor and have my consulting business and have my clients who are in different stages of their practice and help them. So I'm really just loving the variety that I can now impart because I still love practicing. I still love treating the kids and those families. And I get to talk and uplift other women and men, be able to live their best life and not necessarily go through all the struggles that I had gone through in my journey.
Yeah. You shared in, I know that that recent article that I read, just about kind of your story about around, I don't know if it was necessarily burnout, but just that work-life balance juggle that all of us women deal with. And there was something you said in there that really stuck out to me. You said to embody the nurturing, compassionate energy I wanted for my patients, I knew I had to start nurturing myself. And recently I was reminded, I had an experience and a conversation with someone where I was reminded the fact that high achieving women, especially mothers, tend to do all of the giving and very little receiving for ourselves. It's like the giving part is a reflex, it's ingrained at us, since we were young girls to be nurturing and giving and take care of everyone around us. And often we find ourselves looking at the taking as unnecessary or selfish. And it's a really big revelation to finally understand the power and impact of nurturing ourselves. And so we can show up for our families, our patients, our team, our partners, the way we want to. So, how did you begin, like this, you moving towards your next, phase two of your purpose beyond your practice? How did you begin nurturing yourself in ways that helped you really show up in the world the way you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely right. I think sometimes as women, we feel like it's like that badge of honor to like do it all and just say yes and not say no to things. Because what would that look like if we didn't say yes to everything? So I think one of the first steps was to acknowledge that self-care and being able to truly take care of yourself is not selfish. right? It's actually necessary in order to be to be the person that you want to be and to be that person to the people that you're giving to, like, and really give it your all. Because when you're not giving yourself your all, how can you give that to others, right? So the biggest shift, I think, was being able to really delegate and empower my team. Uh, because I did it, I think for so many as a practice owner, we think that we need to do it all and that we need to like micromanage everything, but and that we have to do it right. And if it's not done right if we're not the ones doing it. And that was a big shift for me, was to really be able to entrust your team and hire the right people that understands the core values and know what your practice represents, in order to really let that part go and know that you are really empowering them, because you're empowering your team to be their best selves, and you're being a role model as well by showing that you believe in them and letting that part go, to be like, I entrust you guys that you guys are going to do this because you know what the core values of the practice are. um, but really setting those boundaries, because in the beginning, I can admit that I didn't really have any,
Yeah.
right? I just think I just said yes to everything. And no matter what it took because it basically meant that it was me not having the sleep, being tired, not taking care of myself, not eating, not going to the bathroom, just all the things, because you needed to be everything to everybody. So I think setting those boundaries and really learning that no is a complete sentence.
Yes. Yes. Say that again. That's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
Because before, I would always have to, like, if I said no, I would have to have a long-winded story behind the no.
Yeah. So it's
And
no,
it's freeing.
right, right. So you're saying the boundary is being able to be free enough to say no without a long-winded explanation and
Hmm.
a but or a why. So that can be really challenging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It takes practice to really pause. Because, like, right, pause can sometimes be uncomfortable. But when you say, like, if you ask me to do something that does not align with what I'm doing or whatever that it is, it's just no.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
It's freeing.
Yeah.
The more practice, it's very uncomfortable in the beginning,
Yeah.
but the more you practice it, the more like power you feel within yourself, that you're like, I'm really standing for me and what my boundaries are, in what, because then you really start to figure out what really matters in your life. And when you know that purpose, then it just makes everything more clear. You just have clarity.
Right. I was thinking of this in terms of, all the moms that listen to this podcast, and you and I are mothers. Does that work with children as well? Because when I try to, do that, I'm like, no, Aaliyah, that's not going to work. I mean, it's like, but mom, right? And the 20 things. And she is very assertive at
Hmm.
getting what she wants, which is going
Hmm.
to serve her, So
Absolutely.
I'm like, be directed, be bossy. That's amazing. I work with her on like, hey, let's come to a compromise, that kind of thing. So I don't squash that, but I probably, there are times where I just want to have the freedom to say no in a pleasant way and
Hmm.
move on and let her sit with that no.
Hmm.
How do you do that with teenagers?
Oh, well, I think we need to ask the same questions to each other, right? I mean, this is this is all in theory and sometimes,
Yeah,
but children are a different story,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It is a work in progress at all times. I mean, just like what you said with your daughter, sometimes you just sit with that for a second
yeah.
and Um, it's challenging not to be emotional when it comes to your own children. It's definitely easier to say no in, professional situations. But with your own kids, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a work in progress because of course we all fall into those traps of having to explain and but I think as our kids get older and they've watched us, right? Like they watch us. They've observed us throughout the years. And right now I think I have a 19-year-old daughter who, gosh, it's amazing to watch her mature and just really develop. And now how she even talks with her brothers with a more mature perspective when she witnesses like conversations. Like she's now becoming that adult of boys, you should listen to mom. She does know what she's talking about.
That is a beautiful thing. When they get old enough, they say that, oh, on your behalf.
It's gonna happen. And like then you just feel you're like, all right, my
Yeah.
parenting is working. Like you feel like
Yes.
it's
Yes. Yes. It's affirming. That's amazing. That's awesome.
yes, yes. So I don't, hopefully with my, I've got three boys. We'll see when that turn happens.
Right. Right. Yes. That's awesome. Oh, goodness. Well, we love our kiddos. They are. It's parenting is a work in progress. Being a mom is a work in progress. And I think the best method is to just spread as much grace around as you possibly can for yourself, for your kids. And sometimes that's a no, and you just let it sit and be. And sometimes you do need to dive in with your kiddos and really share the why behind the no.
Yes. Yeah. Because oftentimes that's where the learning happens, right?
Yeah.
That's the learning process. So that's why sometimes that no is not, there's a place for the no.
Right.
And then there's a time for, okay, this is why we're doing this. Like let's explain so that they can understand because, obviously a 2-year-old when you say no to them,
Yeah. Right.
that's a different story.
Yes. Well, that's awesome. So
Mm.
to wrap up that, conversation, boundaries are a way that we can nurture ourselves. That's my biggest takeaway. And so
Yeah.
those, will look similar, but also they're specific to each of us individually. But I think that's really, really empowering to kind of just each of us maybe even take time, later. If you're hearing this and you're a woman and you're, a high achieving professional and you have kids, boundaries are a way to nurture ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really just whatever I literally block time on my calendar for me.
I started just this year doing that. And it was just it's been the most liberating thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Blocking in like planned intentional white space in my calendar.
That is correct. And like when I review the week, knowing that I have that time is just right. We all look forward to certain things. And so sometimes I'm like, when is it me time?
Yes. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I purposely will block even whether it's like a 20-minute something like throughout like in a day. It's not like I only do it once in a week. It's like I intentionally will put me time every day.
That's incredible. Okay. Well, audience of women, Story Project audience, you better be taking some notes because I sure. Awesome. Well, I'd love to segue into talking about the power of mentorship. And it's pretty cool that you just organically shared that story of, how you're truly mentoring and you have this mindset of mentorship with, your young pediatric patients from, the age of 5. You continued practicing at NOVA and, after selling, and then you have continued practicing there, but also have this new, as you shared earlier, this new passion ignited for mentorship. So, what inspired you to begin mentoring dentists, specifically women, to help them build thriving, successful practices?
I really think it was my own journey of feeling alone at times. I think as dentists, I mean, at least I was, we tend to not always want to share the behind the scenes of what it's truly like to be a mom, be a business owner. There's so much that I think when I was doing it of everything's great, yep, I'm doing this, right? And then behind the scenes, you come home and you just start crying to your husband to be like, this was the worst day. Like all of this is happening. Like you have to be so put together so often, right? Because we're in patient care, right? Something happens, you go into your office and then you come out of that office and I'm Dr. Val again. You have to be like, you have to have this persona. And it's tough to have those real, raw, authentic conversations with even your colleagues because, you're like, do they have enough time to really hear what's going on? And I wanted to be that sounding board for somebody else, for another mom, another to be like, I get it. Like I know what's happening. I know what you're going through. We will get through this. Let's put everything into perspective. And so I think just knowing, I mean, my current clients that I have, I think they just like they so look forward to our calls because it's like they're holding it all in. It's almost like it's a therapy session of, okay, this is what's happened. How do I handle this? Because everybody feels that what's happening to them is different. Like they're having a different experience and no one has gone through this. And when they know truly it has, but then it's just not talked about a lot. And sometimes people don't want to really acknowledge that it's happening. But they want that safe, like, so I want to provide that safe space of like no judgment, like what's really going on in your head so that you can actually level up and grow because there's so much it's just scary. And I know that, I had my husband that I could talk to and like I just didn't really feel like, and I have coaches. Like I had my own coaches throughout my whole entire practice career. And that's where I started to realize that because I'm also a practicing dentist, still that I really know what's going, like I have like a true pulse of what's going on in the environment today.
That was one question I had for you. Did your coaches provide mentorship, or did you have any roles or anyone in your life that you felt like, wow, they mentored me along the way, or I learned this from this person? Just anything impactful for yourself, like personally.
My business partner and we are like self-help business owner, like book gurus, where we would almost have like our own study groups of like reading books and talking about it and trying to implement it and being inspired by like Brene Brown and like all that kind of things. And I mean, I don't know if I truly had, but besides my own mother, who was a huge role model for me, just in terms of perseverance and just grittiness. I never really had that true mentorship of somebody that's gone through this exact experience that I've gone through. Of course, I've had friends, it's nice to have, I have friends who have their own businesses, but not necessarily in the medical field. But it's it's interesting to still see the parallels that it doesn't matter what industry you're in. When you're a small business owner, you are still going through same struggles, team issues, like all the things that kind of cross over. Like you don't have to be a dentist, but you just have to kind of be a business owner, know what it's like to have loans and making payroll and how you're going to pay the bills,
Yeah.
taking second mortgages out of your home. You're just trying to, stay afloat in the beginning, knowing that hopefully one day it's all going to pay off.
Yeah. Wow. Well, something I was thinking about as preparing for this conversation with you is I really believe, and you can tell me if you agree, but that mentorship can be intentional, but it can also be very specific and arranged. And it can be a mindset and really a way of living out your calling with other people. Ann Duffy is founder of, Do Life, and
Yes.
I literally call her my dental mama. So she
Yes.
has I have no specific mentorship relationship or, anything set up specifically as far as like mentorship coaching with her, but she has impacted my life in more ways than I can count or even speak to. And she has a mindset of mentorship, and she does that with all of the women around her all the time, 24/7. It oozes out of her. It's truly one of her gifts. It's really is so truly extraordinary to me. Um, in your experience, do you believe in like having, living, breathing a mindset of mentorship? And if so, do you believe that that's a really powerful way to impact and influence the people around you?
Absolutely. I mean, I adore Ann Duffy. When I was introduced to her, gosh, maybe a year and a half ago, you can just feel her energy even through Zoom. Like, 'cause that's how I first met her was through Zoom. And immediately the connection was just there. Like, Zoom, I mean, it's just sort of like you and me. As soon as you
Uh,
see each other on the camera, there's just some sort of quantum energy or something going on where you just feel uplifted and like you're in the right space. And she'll know, oh, I'm going to connect you with this person and this person. So when you embrace that mindset that, yeah, mentorship doesn't have to be organized like that. It's about just having that mindset that we're all here and we're all connected for a reason to uplift, and that ripple effect will continue. Um, and so I think when you already have that energy exude out of you, that people like you then start to attract those types of people that want or need that energy.
Absolutely, 100%. Can you share a quick success story of any of the women, dentist practice owners that you've worked with, where it just was it's a really cool kind of win, where you've coached them, they've worked with you in your consulting program, and uh, I don't know if you could think of anything that was just like a really cool testimonial of a woman overcoming a hurdle or something, and that all happened through that mentorship.
Yeah. I mean, one of my clients, um, again, I'm not doing like aggressive marketing or anything like that because I do want things to organically happen. And I think I told you previously that I went on a dental mission in Guatemala, and my daughter was being um, recognized for she had put on a golf tournament to raise money to go to Guatemala, and so she had raised over $45,000 for this mission trip. So she raised it as a junior in high school, and then she did that in the spring, and then together we went on this mission trip in October of that year, and then there was a gala, and then she was recognized at this event. So I was just there, as a participating um, dental mission person that went. But there was another dentist that was there, and she knew of me, and I hadn't really even started my consulting business. And she reached out to me. She goes, "Hey, Val, are you able to mentor me?" And like I didn't even start the business. I had just sort of put that energy out there that that's what I wanted to do. And I was like, "How did you even know that I was gonna be doing this?" And she goes, "Oh, I didn't know if you were going to be doing this." She was just like, "I just have been following your career, and I would love your help and guidance on, how to do what I did." And I was like, "Well, that's fantastic." And it was so crazy how parallel our lives were because she's a pediatric dentist. She's got 3 kids, not 4. But, you know, on that same trajectory path as I was, but, maybe 15 years prior. And, I was so honored that she wanted to work with me. So we've been working together almost 18 months. And it has just been so great to just already see how already what system she had already had in place at such a young stage of her practice. I mean, she was only 2 years old. She started from scratch. And I was amazed at what she had already done by herself. And so just doing these little tweaks. And so she could see like how it changed not only her production, but also on how it helped her mentally. Knowing that we would be calling every week, that I was there, she just had something like, is this the right thing to do? What do you think about this? So just that sounding board of knowing that somebody was there that had no judgment. And, this past year, she hit 7 figures. And I was like astounded that, in such a short time that she was able to place the system, like put her systems in place, get a great marketing plan ahead, and just get all those new patients. And all at the same time, she ran a marathon. I mean, just all the kinds of things where she took time for herself and she was okay with doing that. Like she didn't feel like I knew for me at times I would feel guilty about doing because I should have been doing something else for somebody else. But she knew that she needed this for herself. And I love working with her and just watching her really thrive. And she bought a new house. I mean, just all the things that she's been doing that when she set goals for, uh, is just really coming up with that great plan on how to achieve it and being there to witness it.
Oh gosh, how incredibly inspiring. That's awesome. Good for her. And
Yes.
that's a marathon and all that. Wow, that's
Yeah.
a lot of dedication. But that's
Yes.
something really cool that she was able to, that's, in my opinion, that's that whole nurturing aspect of putting yourself and your hobbies or your interests, that thing outside of work that lights that spark inside of you. It's the healthiest thing any of us could ever do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to do it so early on in her career is amazing. And,
Ab-
and so that's what I want to be able to help and guide others is right to do it now, right? And not wait too long because you can only thrive even more when you make that commitment to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. A worthwhile adjustment for sure. So before we wrap up, I
Yes.
want to touch on something that you shared that has truly transformed your personal growth. And you'll have to tell me, is it Misogi or
Yes.
Misogi? Misogi.
Masogi.
Misogi.
Masogi.
Perfect.
Yes.
So inspired by Jesse Itzler. And I kind of have the little definition there, but maybe you could just share in your words, what is Misogi?
So a masogi is a Japanese term that has been a little bit redefined by Jesse Itzler as the idea that once a year you should take on a challenge so big and audacious that it's so outside your comfort zone that it will fundamentally change who you are because it's that powerful. So you really have to think super big because for me, it's just knowing that when I have a masogi for the year and you accomplish it, then you know that whatever comes your way, you know that you could do hard things and it doesn't seem as challenging anymore when something like an issue comes up with the practice or in the family or whatever. So it's it's like starting a practice or stepping into mentorship. It all happens when you take that leap into the unknown because that's where the growth really happens is when, right? I didn't know how to start a consulting business. I knew how to start a practice. And so I said, well, I knew how to start a practice. I could scale it. I know how to sell it. So I have to believe in myself that I will know how to do my next chapter and believe in it. And so that's what a Masogi is.
That's incredible. So starting your consulting business, is that kind of has that been your biggest Masogi in the last few years? Or is a Masogi allowed to extend over 1 year, or is it a specific goal that you really want to bring to life within that year span?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually, so I do a Masogi every year.
Okay. Okay.
So I do a different, whether it's a physical challenge, a mental challenge, a business challenge. So this year, my Masogi is, so I am a runner. I'm a marathon runner, ultra marathon runner. But usually, like whatever that date is, then sometimes, like when I'm done with the race, then I kind of peter out a little bit and I'll just run occasionally. So this year, my Masogi is to run 2,025 miles in the year.
Whoa. Okay.
So that it's more about consistency instead of, because sometimes I'll run like two marathons a year. So then, there's rest periods during that time. But I really wanted to show myself that I could be consistent. I think one of my growth challenges for myself is that I will keep promises to everyone else except myself. And so this is my challenge is that I will be consistent throughout the year. And so in order for me to do that, it's like averaging 6 miles a day, but I don't run every day. So then you kind of have to catch up and kind of do our other things. And
Okay.
yeah.
That's really incredible. I love that. And it sounds like your Misogi is personal to you. It's
Yes,
customized to you, individual. So it can be really anything that's something you aspire to accomplish or move towards.
correct. That will definitely, if you accomplish it, would change you as a person and be that better version of you.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I set goals and things that I obviously achieve and work to achieve hard every year, but I love this. I love the heart behind that. I love this whole concept, and that's something I know I want to. My takeaway is that I personally want to start practicing that every year because it
Mhm.
also I think is invigorating to know that you have this big, big challenge that I'm assuming it has to feel big, right? It has to feel like,
Yes. Has
oh,
to be feel big. It has to feel scary. It has to feel like you have to give it your all in order to really make it happen.
yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Today, we heard the incredible story of Dr. Valerie Woo, and I just so appreciate her being with us. We also talked about the power of mentorship and how mentorship can be, and it is a mindset that we can adopt. And we learned about Masogi challenges, which I now am going to do, like for sure. I feel like I actually did one earlier this year. I kind of went through this training experience that really there was a part one, part two, and it really has transformed me. And it was very, very challenging to get through. I might count that as my Masogi because it kind of took everything for me to it was not easy, but I feel very transformed walking away from it. So I'll plan on making thinking and creating one for next year for sure.
I'd
But
love to hear more about it. It sounds amazing.
yes. Valerie, can you take a moment and just share any last words of encouragement with this audience of women leaders in dentistry listening?
Um, I mean, I think that growth isn't always about doing more. Um, I think what we talked about is that it's intentional. When you set boundaries or when you invest in yourself or step into a challenge that pushes you beyond your comfort zone, all of those small steps matter. And so I encourage everyone to trust themselves, to take bold action, and don't be afraid.
Love that so much. And that is the perfect segue because at the end of every podcast, I say, let's be fearless together, ladies. And that's kind of that's like my jam. That's my tagline. So that just is so complimentary. Valerie, thank you so much for just your time and for just pouring your heart into this conversation and into this audience of women. So I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you always for listening, Story Project podcast audience. And like I mentioned earlier, let's be fearless together, ladies.